You can now get 2 free audiobook downloads and a 30-day free trial at audible.bogosity.tv. Your choice from the world's largest selection of over 180,000 digital audiobooks and spoken word content for your iOS or Android device, Kindle, or MP3 player. Go to audible.bogosity.tv now. Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the week of October 8th, 2017, the podcast that's humming songs to a girl in a yellow dress. This is your host, Shane Killian. Let's disinclinate the news of the bogus. For those of you who are still under some delusion that Cuba's healthcare system is in any way good, despite the squalor readily evident to anyone who isn't a fat filmmaker who thinks he's doing journalism, Cuban doctors are trying to break out of their government healthcare system, calling it slavery. Yes, that's their word. What's going on is other countries such as Brazil are making contracts with the Cuban government to use their doctors. Brazil pays the Cuban government millions of dollars every month, but the doctors hardly get any of that money at all. So in the last year, 150 Cuban doctors have filed lawsuits in Brazil to challenge this, demanding to be treated as independent contractors with full salaries instead of slaves of the two governments. According to Dr. Dᴏლიᴇᴄᴏıᴜ, quote, "When you leave Cuba for the first time, you discover many things that you had been blind to. There comes a time when you get tired of being a slave." One of the other doctors said, quote, "It's sad to leave your family and friends in your homeland, but here we're in a country where you're free, where no one asks you where you're going or tells you what to do. In Cuba, your life is dictated by the government." This comes in the wake of President Obama last year stopping the procedures by which Cuban doctors could defect to America and get permanent residency visas. Many Cuban doctors feel that was a way out that was then completely blocked off to them. This latest trend began when a Brazilian clergyman learned how little the doctors were being paid and put one of the doctors in contact with a lawyer who could sue on her behalf to work as an independent contractor. Within weeks, dozens of others followed and won. One of their lawyers, Andre de Santana Correa, says the agreements contradict the equality protections in Brazil's constitution, and one of the judgments expressly called the arrangement a, quote, "form of slave labor." But Brazil doesn't like that decision. They're appealing the judgments, and Brazil's health minister Ricardo Barros claims there's no injustice and that these doctors agreed to all the terms. Tell the doctors that. They earn 2,900 reais a month, which is about $908, quite a bit more than the $30 a month they earn back in Cuba, but still quite a bit less than the $3,620 a month Brazil pays Cuba. Oh, they also get to not see their family the whole time. By the way, this whole deal was brokered by the World Health Organization. So before any of you statists claim that this was just an isolated one-time thing, the premier government health organization in the world approves of it. The UN also resoundingly approves of the program. As Jimenez said, quote, "You are trained in Cuba, and our education is free. Healthcare is free. But at what price? You wind up paying for it your whole life." Jimenez has been fired and is now barred from re-entering Cuba for 8 years. That is the kind of thing that a collectivist system gets you, and there's no reason to think that universal healthcare will be any different anywhere else. It's just a matter of time. Say, if you're tired of the promos in this podcast, well, the patrons got it early and with no ads or promos. Just go to patreon.bogosity.tv and donate at any level. Remember the whole brouhaha over the FBI unlocking the iPhone belonging to the San Bernardino terrorists? They ended up doing so by exploiting a major security flaw, and now a federal court has said they're under no obligation to expose the vulnerability. U.S. District Judge Tanya S. Chutkan ruled, quote, "It is logical and plausible that the vendor may be less capable than the FBI of protecting its proprietary information in the face of a cyber attack." But the vendor already has it, don't they? So they have to protect it as it is. Did this stupid woman not think through this? Quote, The FBI's conclusion that releasing the name of the vendor to the general public could put the vendor's systems and thereby crucial information about the technology at risk of incursion is a reasonable one. Really? At risk of what? Apple having the capacity to fix it and protect users from these vulnerabilities? Give me a break! By the way, need I remind people that this so-called vendor is a criminal organization dealing in security vulnerabilities, making them available to anyone who can meet their exorbitant price tag? Oh, and speaking of the price tag, despite Comey slipping and saying they spent $1.3 million for the hack, the judge won't even make them confirm how much taxpayer money it cost. Quote, releasing the purchase price would designate a finite value for the technology and help adversaries determine whether the FBI can broadly utilize the technology to access their encrypted devices. Those adversaries are iPhone users! And you knew she was going to say it, quote, since the release of this information might reduce the effectiveness of a critical classified source and method, it is reasonable to expect that disclosure could endanger national security. Again, the classified source is organized criminals, and the method is a security vulnerability. Has this stupid woman ever even seen an iPhone? Does she have the first clue about any of these issues? Comey says this tool only works on an iPhone 5C running iOS 9, but how do we know the vulnerability it exploits has been fixed or not? As the FBI almost kinda slipped up and admitted in court, they might be able to easily retool it to work on any iPhone, even the newest ones on the shelves right now. Without full disclosure, there's no way to know. Do you have children, or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to Bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-age children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at Bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins. How does someone become a terrorist? You may think it would require engaging in or supporting a violent attack on civilians or joining an organization that does so, something like that. But apparently, all that's required in the UK is to be in possession of a phone locked with a password. Muhammad Rabbani is the international director of the Muslim advocacy group CAGE. Last May, he was charged under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act solely because he refused to hand over the passwords to his iPhone and his laptop. By the way, if you remember our discussion of David Miranda's detention at Heathrow Airport a few years ago, this is the exact same law. According to Rabbani, the devices contain sensitive information from a torture victim that the victim didn't want publicly disclosed. Apparently, it's research in a torture case allegedly linked to the U.S. Rabbani was arrested, questioned for 3 hours, and charged with willfully obstructing a police search by not handing over his passwords. According to Rabbani, quote, there were around 30,000 documents which I was especially uncomfortable handling, and I felt an enormous responsibility to try and discharge the trust that was given to me and the lawyers I met at that event. Officers wouldn't tell the court why Rabbani was detained, so much for habeas corpus, but prosecutor Tom Little did tell the court that the stop was not random. Despite there being no evidence of any wrongdoing against Rabbani, the court convicted him. Rabbani said, quote, today's judgment, based on the judge's and prosecution's acceptance that I am of good character and worthy of belief, highlights the absurdity of the Schedule 7 law. They accept that at no point was I under suspicion, and that ultimately this was a matter of having been profiled at a port. there are important implications for our collective privacy as Schedule 7 acts as a digital strip search. I took the decision not to raise the details of an important torture case before my arrest, and ultimately, I have been convicted of protecting the confidentiality of my client. If privacy and confidentiality are crimes, then the law stands condemned. We will be appealing this decision, and we have won the moral argument. Good luck, Rabbani. Understand, everyone, his only crime was not cooperating with the armed thugs that wanted to steal confidential information and rifle through it for their own ends. If you want to know why our rights protections in the U.S. are so important, look at this example of how it works in a country that doesn't have them. If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. Longtime fans will know that Bogosity has never been a stranger to DMCA takedowns. Episode 1 back in 2007 fell victim to it, as have a few others. Over the last decade, we've seen them get more and more bizarre, and now, get this. A video game company issued a DMCA claim against a PlayStation 3 emulator. Atlus issued a DMCA takedown claim against RPCS3 because it could be used to play their game Persona 5. If you're wondering how on earth this is possible, we need to go back in time even further to 1998, when the DMCA was used against programmers trying to make a DVD player for Linux. It was successful, and the court went against years of precedent, saying that computer code does not count as free speech. I gained a tiny amount of recognition for writing the computer code hoedown in response, where I sang a bit of the source code in question. Understand, folks, this is something the DMCA is designed to do, and once I explain how, you'll see how these statements from Atlus actually fit in with the law. But let me give you their statements first. They said, quote, "We believe that our fans best experience our titles, like Persona 5, on the actual platforms for which they are developed. We don't want their first experiences to be frame rate drops or crashes or other issues that can crop up in emulation that we have not personally overseen." Their word, overseen. "We want to keep bringing you titles like Persona 5. Unfortunately, when our content is illegally circumvented and potentially made available for free in a format we do not think delivers the experience and quality we intend, it undermines our ability to do so by diverting potential support from new audiences." That's actually funny, because the general experience people have reported over the years is that wares groups have an incentive to fix issues quickly, while game companies have to be dragged into it kicking and screaming. Now, when people think of a DMCA takedown like people generally experience on YouTube, that's under DMCA Section 512, which is the notice and takedown provision for content that infringes on copyright. This is done through a different section, 1201, which makes it illegal to, quote, "manufacture, import, offer to the public, provide, or otherwise traffic in any technology, product, service, device, component, or part thereof that is primarily designed or produced for the purpose of circumventing a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under this title." Let me take that apart for you. Control access to means determining who can see it and when. If they don't want you to watch your legally purchased DVD on Linux or play your legally purchased PS3 game on a PC, they get to make that determination. And the only thing required under 1201 is the software be designed to do that. This is how they enforce DRM. In fact, it's the only way they can. They want DRM to be there to enforce copyright and prevent copying, but in order for that to work, they have to make illegal not just software designed to specifically make illegal copies, but software designed to give the user any access to it other than what the content makers specifically want. This is how messed up the DMCA is. It's important for everyone to understand that. This is not the law being abused. This is the law doing exactly what it was intended to do. We live in a world where light bulbs connect to the internet, and recent attacks on them prove that your online security is under threat like never before. Not only your websites, but the internet-enabled devices you buy. And the biggest problem is weak passwords. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords on the web and on your internet-enabled devices, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers, all your computers, and even your mobile devices, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, software licenses, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications, manage passwords for your entire family, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. And now it's time to peek through the keyhole of this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And this week it's the EU once again, showing how little they care for reality as they once again bury one of their own studies because it concluded something they don't like. In this case, a study that showed that unauthorized downloads have almost no effect on sales at all. The EU contracted eChorus to study the effect of the online piracy of music, audiovisual content, ebooks, and video games on both online and offline sales. The EU received the results of the study in May of 2015 and kept it to themselves. The only reason we know about it now is because of a Freedom of Information request from the Pirate Party's MEP Julia Reda. This TechDirt article links to the emails back and forth showing just how uncooperative the European Commission were being in complying with the request, even though it was their legal obligation to do so. The resulting study, also linked, is a 304-page document detailing the activities of over 30,000 participants in Germany, France, Poland, Spain, Sweden, and the UK. The study found, quote, "In general, the results do not show robust statistical evidence of displacement of sales by online copyright infringements. An exception is the displacement of recent top films. The results show a displacement rate of 40%, which means that for every 10 recent top films watched illegally, 4 fewer films are consumed legally." And as we usually see in such studies, the evidence is that unauthorized downloads actually boost sales. Quote, "The estimated effect of illegal online transactions on sales is positive, implying that illegal consumption leads to increased legal consumption. This positive effect of illegal downloads and streams on the sales of games may be explained by the industry being successful in converting illegal users to paying users." Of course, it's also easily explained by the fact that it raises the popularity of these things, and people who see it illegally end up talking about it to other people who then consume it legally. It's basically free advertising. So what's their explanation for why people pirate? Quote, "Overall, the analysis indicates that for films and TV series, current prices are higher than 80% of the illegal downloaders and streamers are willing to pay. For books, music, and games, prices are at a level broadly corresponding to the willingness to pay of illegal downloaders and streamers. This suggests that a decrease in the price level would not change piracy rates for books, music, and games, but that prices can have an effect on displacement rates for films and TV series. In other words, they're pirating because the prices of films and TV are just too damn high." The human rights group EDRI found something interesting about this. Quote, Interestingly, these results concerning the film industry found their way to a publication of an academic paper by Benedict Hertz and Kamil Kiliansky, both members of the chief economist team of the European Commission. Yet, the other unpublished results showing no negative impact of piracy in the music, book, and games industry were not mentioned in the paper. Beyond that, the original study itself is not referred to either. This seems to substantiate suspicion that the European Commission was hiding the study on purpose and cherry-picked the results they wanted to publish by choosing only the results which supported their political agenda towards stricter copyright rules. Which means it's extremely unlikely that the EU is going to act on what the results of their own studies show and continue instead to spew deliberate misinformation solely for the purpose of allowing their corporate cronies to continue to fleece the public. Which means that only the EU could possibly have been named this week's biggest Bogon emitter. If you're going to shop online, use our special links to shop at Amazon. Clear your cookies and go to amazon.bogosity.tv, and you won't pay a penny more for your purchase. If you haven't used the mobile app in the last 12 months, or even at all, go to get5.bogosity.tv on your phone or tablet and get $5 off your order of $10 or more. Go to prime.bogosity.tv for a free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime and enjoy thousands of movies and TV episodes, borrowed Kindle books, and get unlimited 2-day shipping for free. And speaking of Kindle, go to kindle.bogosity.tv for a 30-day free trial to Kindle Unlimited. Read over 1 million books and listen to thousands of audiobooks on any device. You can go to music.bogosity.tv and get a free 30-day trial of Amazon Music Unlimited with access to Amazon's entire library of 10 million songs, ad-free and with unlimited skips, and even download to listen offline. All great ways to help this podcast simply by shopping at Amazon. And now let's draw an arrow through the head of a picture of this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And this week it's Black Students United, who actually don't like the fact that Cornell University is admitting more black students. Why? Because the black students they're admitting are African and Caribbean, not African American. See, this is always the thing that's put the lie to claims of leftists. They talk about how African Americans are held back because of racism. Yet when you compare them to African and Caribbean immigrants, the immigrants are doing much better, despite, in most cases, being a darker shade of black than most African Americans. So Black Students United handed the university president a list of their demands in which they said, quote, "We demand that Cornell admissions to come up with a plan to actively increase the presence of underrepresented black students on this campus. We define unrepresented black students as black Americans who have several generations, more than 2, in this country." Hey, guys, maybe instead of pulling this crap, how about trying to fix the problems with urban culture which discourages learning, entrepreneurship, and self-empowerment? I'll tell you why. Because what you really want is handouts that you don't deserve. Your black counterparts from other countries are earning those slots in universities. You aren't. Of course, they're just whining that it's all about slavery. Quote, "There is a lack of investment in black students whose families were affected directly by the African Holocaust in America. Cornell must work to actively support students whose families have been impacted for generations by white supremacy and American fascism." Okay, first of all, African slavery was not a Holocaust. A Holocaust is when people are slaughtered, like Jews in Nazi Germany or Native Americans in the late 19th century. You're talking about slavery, and do you really not know that that's been going on in Africa too? How do you think Europeans got slaves to begin with? You think they just went there and clubbed them on the head or something? No, they bought slaves from other Africans. And pretty much all of the ancestors of Caribbean blacks were brought to the Caribbean specifically to work on the plantations. Their ancestors are much more likely to have been slaves than yours. They also want one of the local fraternities to be shut down so they can get their house. Spoiled, entitled brats, the lot of them. They're going to a private Ivy League university that's out of the league of even most white people, and that still isn't enough for them. Sorry, but if Mumsy and Daddums can afford $70,000 a year to send you to an elite school, you do not get to pretend to be oppressed. So all of that makes Cornell University's Black Students United this week's
Idiot Extraordinaire.
Well, that wraps up this Hope It Doesn't Sound Arrogant When I Say That I Am the Greatest Man in the World edition of the Bogosity podcast. Come join the discussion at forum.bogosity.tv and feel free to send a question, statement, news article, or rant in text or audio to podcast@bogosity.tv. This podcast depends on you to keep going, so please donate using the links on the website or the QR codes in the thumbnail, or become a patron at patreon.bogosity.tv and get the podcast and YouTube videos early and without ads or promos. Thank you for listening. Until next time, here's a quote from Learned Hand. I had rather take my chance that some traitors will escape detection than spread abroad a spirit of general suspicion and distrust which accepts rumor and gossip in place of undismayed and unintimidated inquiry. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.
Christmas time is coming, and the most classic of Christmas stories is A Christmas Carol. But how much do you know about the original Charles Dickens novella? Have you dismissed it as a children's book with one-dimensional characters amounting to nothing but platitudes and cliches? Maybe your appreciation of the book was even muted by those dry, boring, annotated books they made you read in school. My book, the sarcastically annotated A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, uses both facts and humor to present the book in a way you probably haven't seen it before. Giving praise when deserved and beratement when warranted, this book is put in the perspective of its time and shows a dimensional, multi-layered Ebenezer Scrooge from start to finish. Skepticism, history, and even economics are employed to show the book in relation to today in an easily accessible format. Appreciate the Christmas of your youth all over again. Get the sarcastically annotated A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, available at Amazon and on PDF as well.